Hello and welcome to the Cowboy Chronicles, the Oklahoman's Oklahoma State football podcast. I am your host, Scott Wright, back at Stonecloud and joined by Marshall Scott once again.
The band is back together.
The band is back together. Thank you very much for sitting in this week. It's my first time at Stonecloud, so thanks for also joining me for that.
You really had to pull my leg to get me in here.
Right. It was a lot of hard work. How about a beer and a podcast? I think was what I pitched. We'll start with what we're drinking. What'd you go with today?
Yeah, went with the Stonecloud Light. It's my sort of go-to. I'm not a big drinker, so we wanted to keep it safe for the first week.
Nothing wrong with that. I went with an old favorite, Lageritaville, one that I've had several times on the podcast here before. Always a favorite standby. Now, before we get to talking football, your birthday was yesterday. You've been 30 years old for roughly 40 hours or so now.
Somewhere in there. It's been all right. I haven't felt any urges to yell at kids riding bikes near my sidewalk or anything like that, but definitely took some getting used to. I think a little bit. I think when I was 25, when people would ask me how old are you, my first inclination was still 17, and then it took me a little bit to realize that. So now if you ask me how old I am, 30 is probably not the number that's going to pop in my head, but that's reality. That's the world we're living in.
Okay. Now the important question, just a few moments ago, right here behind us, you got ID'd for this beer.
I did. It happens. I'm about 50%.
Yeah.
On about a 50% shooter on whether I get ID'd or not. Go ahead.
Being that you're 30 now, though. Did you immediately get offended by it? You're like, oh, I don't, or was it nice to know that you still look like you could be under 21?
I think I should look at it as a positive. Right now, it's still sort of annoying. I got to go through my wallet, got to find my
right.
I understand why and all that stuff. But I think at some point, that's a good way to look at it. At some point, I'll be thankful that I'm taking my wallet out of my pants.
Because, full transparency, I was not ID'd, and after you got ID'd, I was a little offended.
Whenever he asked, I was just like, oh, he's definitely talking to Scott there. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Exactly. That's what I reached for my wallet and everything. All right, so we're back here at Stonecloud, going to be able to come here and hang out a few times at least, maybe every week. We'll see how it goes timing-wise. Oklahoma State's changed some things up on us, so we'll see how often we're able to get here, but love being here and doing the podcast here. We do, as always, have the opportunity for you to jump in the comment section there on YouTube, give your predictions for Oklahoma State Tulsa on Friday, have a chance to win a beer that I'll drink for you. I'm drinking this one for an Oregon fan whose name I didn't bother to memorize, but it was very clear that he was an Oregon fan. He was, I think, the only one who predicted the score and said 52-7 Oregon. Which was not horribly off.
Yeah,
but
crazy. He still got prices right there.
Yes,
he didn't go over.
Did not go over. That's exactly right. But if you want to offer a prediction for OSU Tulsa, that is available to you there in the comments section, and I'll drink a beer next week for you for winning. So we're here today now, having talked to Mike Gundy and the players today, which is not normal on a Monday, but might be normal going forward. Let's start with Gundy. It was rather subdued, nothing too crazy. I felt like you saw the mood that you probably needed to see from him, but still didn't go wild or anything.
Yeah, some fans still aren't going to be stoked about what he said, but the only thing that can get those fans back on at this point is winning football games.
Right.
But yeah, it was. I don't think anything, Dan Lanning-esque is going to come out of today's press conference, but I wasn't really expecting that coming out of last week's or 2 weeks ago. So. But yeah, it's all pretty standard. Need to get back to work. Like the way that the team responded to practice in the bye week. Said some good things about Zane. Discussed social media sort of broadly. So yeah, I think it was about what I expected going in, which he's not going to tell us a lot. Never super does. Got into Big Hope parody a little bit. But yeah, I think pretty standard Gundy Monday.
Yeah, and for the few of us that were in Oregon, we. Addressed his views of his own job and its the future of that, and he said he can't really worry about that.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. Everybody's got a little bit of self-concern within them, but
probably easier to say, less easy to do. Imagine not worrying about stuff like that. But
yeah. Exactly. So all of that had really been addressed, and I didn't see any need for that. I'm sure there were probably some people that wanted us to talk about that with him today, but. Felt like that had sort of been handled, and nothing has changed, and nothing is going to change.
He wasn't going to say anything different today than he did in post-game Oregon.
Exactly. Not a lot to cover from today. Trent Howland's injury is coming along. There wasn't much in the way of real football talk today. Yeah, other than that, Trent Howland sounds like he's doing okay.
Trent Howland sounds like he's doing okay. Marcus Samuel might not be doing okay.
Yeah, a little hard to tell on that. Gundy, we didn't talk to Gundy about that, but Bob Schick kind of gave some clues that maybe things aren't going great for Markel Samuel.
But good group of players. Talked to Schick.
Really.
Talked to Brandon Rawls, who was really good.
Yes.
Same with Brian McCoy. And you could see, Gundy's been saying Brian McCoy and Brandon Rawls are similar.
Yeah.
And it's sort of been like, yeah. And we talked to Brian McCoy a couple weeks ago, talked to Brandon Rawls, and was like, oh, these guys are pretty similar. I thought he was really insightful. Talked to Kenneth Harris. I think that was my first time talking to him, and he's been on the team for 4 years now.
Right, yeah.
He was good. Talked to Shamar Rigby, the Purdue transfer wide receiver, who's also pretty good. I thought it was overall a group that was willing to talk to us, which is a good start.
It was, and it's always fun to get to talk to transfers, especially the first time, because you get to actually learn a little bit about their backstories and things like that. I hadn't talked to Rawls or Rigby or Schick before, actually. I hadn't talked to any of the four.
Yeah, I talked to Schick at Big 12 Media Days. He was good then, so I knew that he was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
To me, he sort of looks like a Walter Scheid brother. I know that I brought that up to you before.
Yeah, he could just slap it on the back of the jersey and nobody would think twice.
Yeah, when I walked into OSU Media Days, they sort of have tables in the practice gym all along. Players are sitting everywhere. And I looked at Bob Schick, and I was like, there's no way Cody Walter Scheid found another year of eligibility. There's just no way that happened. And turns out it was Bob Schick. So, yeah, he was good. Brandon Rawls, I think, was the standout guy.
He was fantastic. He was great to talk to. It was funny because Gundy talked to us about Brian McCoy and his how competitive he is, how serious he is about football. And Rawls seems that way too, but we asked him about McCoy, and even he gave like a wide-eyed, yeah, he's intense.
Yeah.
And I was like, does he have a goofy side? And he was like, not really. So he's really just kind of all football all the time.
Yeah, Gundy said even like the smallest things that Brian McCoy expects everything to be done correctly all the time, and it sort of gets to him sometimes whenever it's not. So I think in the midst of a 69-3 loss, that's maybe what a fan base is looking for, somebody who is very respectful of doing things perfect. So
exactly.
I think we learned good things about Brian McCoy.
Yeah, I would say so. I really like both of those linebackers. We talked a lot to Rawls, and he got into kind of the transition from Saginaw Valley State Division II up to Big 12, which hasn't seemed to slow him down at all. And kind of in talking to him, maybe it was even a little smoother than maybe he felt like he.
Yeah, and he physically bigger standing right next to him than what we've seen from the press box, which is admittedly hundreds of yards away. But he doesn't look like he just got. Now I'm sure Rob Glass's dungeon has helped him over the summer, but certainly doesn't look like. If you saw that guy, you wouldn't say that guy's probably from D2. It's not something that'd pop up.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned Schick. I didn't get to talk to Harris. How was he to chat?
He was good. It could tell that it was maybe first media session in a while, knocking a little rust off, but just got to talk to him about his story of he's been here for a while, hadn't really played to get up to this point. He's moved from corner to nickel star, whatever they're calling it. Thinks it fits his skill set a little bit better. Is sort of a bigger bodied corner, not height wise, but he's pretty bulky. So just run support, things like that. He feels like this has really suited him better. And I sort of asked, like, why not leave? That's what I asked everybody who hadn't played in a long time. Like, hey, why stay here? Because everybody else is hopping in the portal and stuff like that. And he just said that he wanted to prove himself. He wanted to be a guy that stuck it out. He loves Oklahoma State. So I think those stories are interesting, especially in the modern world where everybody's just transferring all the time. To hear a guy say, well, I like it here, that's why I stayed here. It's like, oh, that's sort of refreshing.
Yeah, and I want to prove myself rather than go somewhere else and have a job given to me.
Yeah.
So I would fully agree. Shamar Rigby was fascinating as well. The most interesting thing to me about talking to him, I believe it was you that asked, what was it about Oklahoma State? We had talked about Corey Patterson, who was his receivers coach at Purdue, and he followed him here. And you asked him what else about Oklahoma State, and he basically said it didn't matter. Yeah. Said Corey Patterson. I trusted the guy. Yeah. But Patterson had started recruiting him when he was a junior in high school. They built this relationship all through the last 2 years of high school and his first year at Purdue, and he just had full trust in him, and Patterson had full trust in what they were doing at Oklahoma State with this new staff, and that's why he's here. And it's just fascinating at this level of football to just hear somebody be like, I just put my full trust in this coach.
Yeah, almost like you talk about Harris and the ability to stay, and then you flip over to the other side of that coin, is Shamar Rigby got an assistant coach he really likes. Said, I'm following
Right.
that guy over there. But
Yeah.
I heard a lot of good things about Patterson in terms of the Katie Jones recruitment at a Jinx and how big of a deal it was that Patterson sort of sold out basically and was just like, hey, just to let you know, we really, really want you to Katie Jones. So I thought that was that's interesting to see sort of a player who's come through that, being recruited by Patterson, and then if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you're certainly hoping what Katie Jones is doing right now at Jinx translates to Stillwater.
Yeah, absolutely. Some phenomenal stuff from him so far this year.
Yeah,
particularly that run Friday night.
Yeah, it was like I think 4 guys got hands on him, and
Yeah.
there was still 40 yards between him and the end zone after he got through all those guys.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
made it all up. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk some real football for a few minutes here. I wrote a story that's in today's paper and online that was 5 keys to saving the season. So I'll throw out a couple of those. Other people are going to have to go read the other 3. But I want to give you a chance to chime in with any of those, and we can do a little back and forth though. But what would you say is at the top of the list, the most important single thing? Because there's a lot of things that it feels like need to be fixed at this point.
I would say, from a football aspect, establishing the run game, I think would be a pretty big one. Just like that's something they didn't have last year. You've got a redshirt freshman quarterback. Didn't play well in Oregon. I don't know how much of that depend on him, considering it seemed like every time the ball was snapped, everything was just going wrong, pretty much instantly. So yeah, I think to me, and that was sort of the thing going into the year. I was like, well, whenever I figure out if this team can run the ball or not, then I'll sort of know more reasonable expectations for it. They got a little bit better in Oregon. It doesn't look like that based on the scoreboard.
Right.
So, I'm wondering if I'm just grasping for straws through the Oregon thing, or if there's actually something there and they actually can move forward. But I think that's sort of where I sit on it as far as this needs to get taken care of most right away.
Yeah, I agree. It's really weird to look at that and you see, they were up like almost half a yard per carry, but they also had some yards in garbage time from Caleb Hicks, and it's like, how much do you weigh into that? You look at PFF, and they actually graded better in run blocking at Oregon than they did against UT Martin. So it's a really weird thing, and I'm curious to see what they do this week. Tulsa, Navy ran all over them, but that's what Navy does. They run the football all day, and so they rushed the ball like 63 times for 337 yards or something. So, that you're not going to go run the ball like that, but maybe you can have some legitimate success and help open up the passing game. And I think that makes all the difference in the world for Zane Flores if you can give him a little bit of a cushion with some run game. And obviously it lets you shorten the game some, when in times when you're feeling less confident in your offense, because I still feel like this defense, and I understand they just gave up 69 points to Oregon, and all of a couple of those being pick sixes late. They still gave up in the 50s, but I still think this defense is pretty good. We absolutely didn't see that, but I do think that they've got some talent.
I think they've at least got to be better than last year's, which is not saying a ton, but if that's the baseline, I just say that they've just physically got to be, because it's hard to be. I don't want to put this too harshly, but it's hard to be much worse than last year's defense in terms of like yards per carry. I think it was like the worst since they started recording such a stat last year.
Right.
So, that's sort of where I am. I think the defense is better this year as well. How much better, I think, is sort of where I'm.
Right. That's what, and I don't know how much we even learned this week, because I don't know. Tulsa's had quarterback issues with, bouncing a couple of guys in, got some injuries, things like that. They do have a talented running back that Oklahoma State folks are certainly familiar with, in Dominic Richardson. His production was down this weekend against Navy. He was I think 13 carries for 60 yards. He's still averaging almost 100 a game through 3 games. So, he's not flashy but tough and gets some of those yards. So,
and they've got Braylon Presley listed at running back now.
They absolutely do.
It's been used, I think, primarily as a running back, but more so sort of as a gadget guy. They put him out wide, they put him in the slot, they put him at running back. So, it's like a thunder and lightning, and both of those were at one point Cowboys. So I think that'll make this game, this is getting off topic, but that'll make this Tulsa game sort of interesting for years to come, is that just by geography, some of the guys that it doesn't work out at Oklahoma State are going to end up at Tulsa. So I think that's always going to make this sort of a fun game to watch.
Yeah. And Gundy referenced the fact that it's not as much anymore because of the transfer portal, that you have guys on both sides that are a lot of Oklahoma kids. But considering the number of guys that came back to Oklahoma in the transfer portal, I think it's just as high a number. I haven't actually looked at it since he spoke today.
I know that Micah Tease is back as
Right.
well. I think the T guy. I think he was suspended last game for some violation of team rules, but it sounds like he's going to be back against Oklahoma State. So yeah, I sort of think, and some of that's been dependent on Tulsa. Tulsa's always gotten criticized, I guess, for maybe not always recruiting Oklahoma kids, but it seems like that's been an importance of the Lamb era to this point. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, I sort of think just with, even Oklahoma State is bringing back Marion Thomas, is bringing back Tajay McCoy.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I think that this game almost will increase in value just because it seems like both schools are bunkering down in terms of keeping kids in state.
Right. Yeah. I completely agree. You look at what Oklahoma State is doing in this next round of recruiting and I sort of thought, well, they've got to be done now, right? After I can't even remember who the last one, maybe Presley or one of the kids right after Presley was that last round, and now they've got a couple of more offensive linemen with offers out now. So we'll see. They might be adding some more Okies to this next class. So among the 5 keys to saving this season that I came up with, and Gundy sort of didn't want to talk a whole lot about simplifying the game plan today, and maybe that's I give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe that's because he felt that was specific to the Oregon game, that those guys felt they had to do a bunch of new stuff to try to out scheme Oregon because they knew that they didn't have the speed at the skill positions and maybe not the physicality up front to compete with them, and they ended up costing themselves more than they realized by trying to do so much. And maybe they don't feel maybe they wouldn't have done a whole bunch of stuff for Tulsa either way. But I think that's absolutely what it comes down to, because I think you've got the athletic ability to compete with anybody else you're going to see on the schedule. And I think that you've got, I think you can be physical enough. That's one thing I'm still looking to see this week and next week, in particular on the offensive and defensive lines. But I think that they're going to be more physical than they were in the opener. Yeah. And so I feel like they can go and compete if they don't put too much in between these kids' ears going forward and let them go out and be football players.
And I think that particularly translates to the defensive end, where a couple of guys have talked about, there's a lot that Grantham has.
Right.
How much he puts of that in on a weekly basis, but it seems like a defense that is perhaps at its best when guys are just playing fast and maybe not thinking as much. You can probably say that about any defense, but for those guys in particular and some of the guys that they brought in, the SEC type bodies, you would think, hey, just let them go to a certain extent. So yeah, I think I'm on board with that as well.
Yeah. All right. Is there another key to saving the season?
Key to saving the season. This is less on the field stuff, but I just think like giving the fan base something to be happy about.
Yes.
It seems like that has just not happened consistently. Whether obviously all the losing last year turns into the Mike Gundy people paying their bills things that goes all haywire, and then there's the drama with Gundy and the Board of Regents and Holt and Weiberg, and then you come into this year. I think for the most part the fan base got back on. They were like, okay, we'll do this again, mainly because they have no choice. It's not Oklahoma State's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I thought for those first couple of weeks, like, hey, this fan base feels good, everything's going well. Obviously stunk whenever Huss Haney gets injured for everybody. That wasn't very fun, but then I still think there was some hope that you could take out of that. Well, at least it's not last year's team, and then you go and get obliterated like that. The likes that no living person has ever seen Oklahoma State lose a football game before.
Right.
So I don't know how that comes. I don't know what that looks like, but I think just staying out of like the bad news cycle for a month would go a long way in just everybody sort of feeling better about everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. And winning cures a lot.
That would do everything.
Yeah. I think I think this week is the one game where you need to kind of win by a decent amount.
If last year's Tulsa team, or if last year's Oklahoma State team beat Tulsa as bad as they did, then it's not going to feel very good if this year's Oklahoma State team wins by 10 points. That's just not going to feel as good.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're going to discuss the point spread here in a little bit, but and I'm keeping it where it was yesterday because that's what I sent you on what we were going to discuss. But it's actually gone down. It's down to like 12 in some Vegas sports books now.
That doesn't feel good, especially considering Tulsa sort of just got rolled up by Navy. Like,
Right.
it's not like Tulsa's coming in here hot either.
Exactly.
They've beaten an FCS team just like Oklahoma State has.
Yeah. The last key to saving the season that I'll throw out, it was the last of the 5 in my entire list, and that was be patient with Zane Flores, because I really do. Gundy seemed hesitant to kind of talk about him a little bit today, and didn't want to, maybe trying to make sure he doesn't swing too much the other way after such a bad game. But I definitely think there's some talent there. I think he's a better player than what his numbers reflect from the Oregon game, and probably better than what his film reflects from the Oregon game. I think there was a lot going on. It was happening very fast, and things spiraled. But I think that he's going to be a good college quarterback. Got to remember, he went 32 months without playing a game, and then he gets his first college start in Autzen Stadium, which was an insane atmosphere. So yeah, I think he deserves some patience. You don't really have an option at this point, but I mean, ragging on him right now is not gonna benefit you either way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree with that. I'm still. It just felt like we've heard too much good about him before this year, for us to watch that Oregon game and be like, well, this is clearly who Zane Flores is.
Right.
So yeah, I think people staying on the Zane train, at least halfway through you talk to me again in 4 games. If it's going badly, then all right. But yeah. It seems weird because like the first game he played in, it sort of felt like the offensive game plan was more Haas Haney centric.
Right.
And then it felt like whenever he got hurt, they didn't. You don't want to lose your only 2 quarterbacks basically to an FCS team.
Right.
So it seemed like they sort of kept it vanilla after that point, just tried to get out of that game. Then, like you mentioned, his first time really actually playing in a football game in 3 years, and it's Oregon. There's no separation for receivers because those corners are so quick.
Right.
There's no run game really to speak of. It was better, but that's not saying a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something that I've expressed on my podcast as well. Is like I'm still in the Zane. I'm still in the Zane camp, and like you said, there's no. You want to start jumping on Banks Bowen right now, and like, not to say that Banks Bowen is going to be a bad college quarterback, but it's just like resetting to a guy with less experience.
Yes,
so.
Exactly, and who's only been here since June.
Yes.
So, yeah, no, fully agree. I'm curious to see what Zane looks like this week. I am still aboard the Zane train for what it's worth. I think he's going to be a pretty solid player. That said, I still think this offense would benefit. I think this quarterback setup would be perfect for having both of them available, Zane and Haas. I really feel like Zane can still add to this when Haas returns, and who knows what Haas looks like coming back from the broken foot and all those sorts of things. Anyway,
I'm willing to see what this looks like now that Zane's had a couple of weeks of practice to go out there.
Yeah.
But something that has been brought up plenty that I do find interesting is like, okay, if this offense was so built upon a mobile quarterback, then why is Zane the backup quarterback? It's sort of like the issue that they got in where we thought Shane Illingworth played pretty well in the games that he got in.
Right.
But he's not Spencer Sanders in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it just sort of seems weird going from a mobile quarterback to a less mobile quarterback. Not that Zane's totally immobile, but so that's something that I sort of do agree with whenever people have their criticisms about.
Right.
It's like, well, why doesn't the backup quarterback play like the first string quarterback? Which I totally get to a certain extent. But yeah, I similarly think Zane's still got it in him. Hopefully with this bye week, these extra weeks of practice where he is the guy, maybe he'll show something moving forward.
Yeah, very curious to see what the offense looks like over the next few weeks as we go forward. You mentioned something that I meant to write down here on my notes here and absolutely forgot. You got a podcast this year now.
Yeah, it's the Reload podcast with Justin Southwell and Nathan Gilslider, both former walk-ons at Oklahoma State. They had a podcast together last year. I walked in and said, hey, I want to be a part of it. No, not really. But, just getting to know those guys. I hopped on their pod a couple times with them. Felt like a good fit. It's been fun. Would be more fun talking about less poopy football. But we'll see if it gets to that point.
Yeah, that's the challenge with an Oklahoma State podcast over the last calendar year, roughly.
Yeah.
So, All right. Anything else about this team before we get into the Stonecloud six pack here?
Anything else stand out? Brian McCoy, per PFF, has yet to miss a tackle. Not only has he wrapped up a ridiculous amount, he hasn't missed a guy yet.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, there are two other guys. When did I write this? I think I wrote this going into the weekend, so it could have changed now. Mm-hmm. There were two guys going into the weekend with 20-plus tackles and no misses. It was him and some Louisiana Tech safety or something like that.
Yeah.
So I found that super impressive, just all things considered. Considering, hey, you played Oregon, it's pretty easy to miss one or two of those guys. And then the fact that he's jumping straight from the MAC and doing this, I've been pretty impressed with Brian McCoy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He's, I hate bringing up this comparison because Nick Martin is in the league right now and playing really well, but it doesn't. There's not a lot of difference between. I get a lot of the same vibes from those two guys on the field and off.
Yeah,
honestly,
we'll see if he could chase down Xavier Worthy, and then I'll start.
Right. Yeah. Then it's a little bit different conversation. So it was funny. Random aside. We were discussing some stuff at the office a couple of weeks ago, and the 2023 Big 12 championship game came up, and we were talking about how how lopsided that was with Texas, and somebody goes, yeah, nobody was chasing down Xavier Worthy that day. I was like, literally, one guy chased him down that day.
Yeah, and I think he had a bum ankle too.
I'm pretty sure he did.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Nick Martin was awesome. Nick Martin
absolutely was.
I loved hearing him speak too.
Right.
He would just speak very calmly and talk about violence, and it was sort of eerie.
It really was.
That's how, and then he had dog slippers.
Yes, exactly. While wearing fluffy dog slippers, the whole everything about him, his whole aura was so fascinating.
Yeah.
I wish he hadn't gotten hurt last year, just so we could have talked to him for another 6 weeks or whatever it was. All right. Well, with that, let's jump into the Stonecloud six pack. We will start with 3 items. 2 items that are out this week, and one that's a little bit bigger picture. But I mentioned the point spread opened at Oklahoma State minus 13.5. Yesterday, like I said, some places have it down as low as 12 now. Still in that 13 range most places. True or false, Oklahoma State will cover 13.5 this week.
For the mental health of the Oklahoma State fan base, I'm going to say true, they will cover. How confident I feel? I think I do feel confident because, again, last year's team wasn't very good. They couldn't run the ball on Tulsa, but they still put up, 44 points?
Yeah.
Alan Bowman left that game as the Walter Camp Offensive Player of the Week. So they're two totally different teams. One's got a totally different coach, so I shouldn't compare these games as closely as I am. Mm-hmm. But if I just watch what OSU turned into last year, and the fact that team could roll through Tulsa, this team can't. I think things are going to get it's not going to calm things, I guess, on the Oklahoma State side. So for the betterment of the OSU fan base, I will say they will cover.
I'm right there with you. It was weird to me that the line moved down already. We'll see what it does the rest of the week here. It's only Monday, so you never know, but I think they cover this. I think that they find enough success running the ball to kind of take control of this game early and put some distance. I don't know, I mean, they might not. If I had said 20, I don't know if I would have picked them to cover 20, but I think they can get up in that range at least and cover the 13.
There have been some closer games. There was I think it was the 2020 year when Illingworth came in after Sanders got hurt, and then I don't know if it's 21. There was another year where Justin Wright returned a pick.
Yes.
And that game was sort of a little itchy scratchy going down.
Yes.
So it is possible that these two have a close game.
I don't remember specifically if there was the Justin Wright interception return game, but I do remember that Tulsa was ahead at halftime in 21.
Oof.
Because
Ethan Bullock was the first arm out of the bullpen.
Right, yeah. And, I remember thinking, this team is not going to a bowl game. And obviously they kind of got things going. But, All right, but I'm going with you. True, Oklahoma State covers 13.5 this week. Number 2, we'll go back to Dominic Richardson on the Tulsa side of things. Dominic Richardson will rush for at least 75 yards against Oklahoma State this week. How you feeling about his rushing potential against this Cowboy defense?
I think I'm leaning true on that. Tulsa's got some quarterback questions. Kirk Francis has been in concussion protocol. I think because it happened not during the Navy game, but the game before that, the New Mexico State game.
Right.
I think hopefully he's good. Just knock on wood, because two week long concussion. sort of scary.
Yeah, that's
so,
when it gets scary.
Yeah, so I think he'll play, but just with uncertainties there, I think they probably will try to establish the run a little bit. It's obviously going to mean a lot to Dom Richardson to play, against a former team, maybe more so than the defense he's going against, who wasn't here when Dom Richardson was here.
Right.
So I think he'll be plenty motivated. I think he'll get over that number. Maybe not hit 100, but I think he'll get over 75.
I'm going to go false on this one. I think that he gets some opportunities. I feel like it's going to be a game where Oklahoma State's linebackers are able to kind of control him and handle the physicality that he presents between Rawls and what you just said about McCoy. That actually makes me feel a little bit better about my pick now. So yeah, I think those guys are able to do what they need to do to keep him in a low enough number, and they're going to have to throw the ball some.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they get to the point where it's not worth it, or not working well enough for them, if depending on how the quarterback situation is playing out. But I feel like they're going to have to get away from it enough that he's not going to get enough carries to get to that 75 number. But still think he's going to end up having a good season with the Golden Hurricane this year. All right, here's the big one, the third one here in the true-false segment. So there are 6 games left between now and the end of October. Tulsa this week, Baylor at home, at Arizona, home against Houston, and then home against Cincinnati. And then what am I missing? I'm missing one more. The last week of October. Why? No, that's not till November. Why? How do I already forget?
I don't have this memorized at all. I just show up on Saturdays.
Like this whole thing was built around these 6 games, and I'm spacing out.
Cincinnati's
here.
where we finished off.
Yeah,
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech
That one's not feeling as good.
in Lubbock at the end of this whole stretch of games coming up here. So those 6 opponents,
Okay.
Only 2 of those games on the road, at Arizona, at Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
True or false, Oklahoma State will win 3 games during that stretch. 3 of the next 6.
I was willing to give you 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm willing to give you 3.
Yeah.
Baylor's been looking better. Their performance against Auburn, I thought, left a little bit to be desired.
Right.
They bounced back a little bit. That was a game that Oklahoma State should have won last year if they could just tackle anybody at any time.
Right.
Arizona, I think, undefeated right now. So
Yes.
That I think is still a winnable game for Oklahoma State. I've been high on Houston this year. Just they bring in Weigman from A&M. Stefano Johnson's having a crazy good start to his season. Former Oklahoma State guy. So I don't see them at this point, after having watched them get clobbered in Eugene. I don't see them beating that Houston team. So, but I think they beat Tulsa. And then what was the Cincinnati was the
Cincinnati
other one.
on homecoming.
Yeah, a little worried about the Godfather in the middle of that Cincinnati defense. If Oklahoma State's offensive line isn't up to snuff, and then they're not able to run the ball, that gets a little haywire. But I think I'd go 2 with Tulsa and Houston, but I just can't see them beating Baylor. They go to Arizona, which makes that even more difficult. I think that's a winnable game, but you go to Arizona, and then Texas Tech, I'm not feeling good about whatsoever. So.
Yep. I'm going to go true here. I'm only giving them 3. I don't think they can win 4 of these 6, but I am not entirely sold on Baylor yet. I can't fully explain it. It's just a feeling. Coming back against SMU was has some merit, but I'm just not fully sold. That said, they do have an experienced quarterback in Sawyer Robertson who could give the secondary trouble, and they could absolutely win that game. I mean, Baylor's going to be favored in that game. I don't think there's any question. But I think that the Mike Gundy team is always good for one win you don't expect them to win. One game you don't expect them to win. They had one last year. We just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
There's no way they should have beat Arkansas last year.
Yeah, that was the Arkansas game.
Yeah, so we didn't know it at the time, but that was the one. But they're always good for one, and I'm sticking with Baylor to give them a little bit of momentum. I don't think they'll. If they do win that, I don't think they can go win it at Arizona. I think that team's maybe putting things back together. But then one of the Houston or Cincinnati, probably Cincinnati is where I'm at on that one as well. So Lubbock is a little bit scary.
Yeah, and they typically played well in Lubbock, but those were A, different OSU teams, and then B, different Texas Tech teams, and that NIL is fully taken over in Lubbock. Hopefully Texas Tech doesn't take that as motivation and saying that they have, some money
Right.
to spend. So
Yeah.
they've every time that I've gone to Lubbock, I think that Oklahoma State has left the winner, but I think it's just two different. It's a different game nowadays.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, that wraps up this segment of the Stonecloud six-pack here from Stonecloud in Stillwater. That brings us to the last three, which is, of course, the draft. I had to kind of toy with the phrasing to figure out just how to phrase this. But we're drafting players you wish your favorite team had drafted. Or, I'm sorry, had traded for. I apologize. This is all based on your recent celebration of the Michael Parsons trade to Green Bay.
Yes,
and
Green
how
Bay Packers
excited-
owner, by the way.
Exactly, and I'm sure you had lots of input on the Parsons deal. So
Yeah.
nice work there.
My call with Jerry really closed it, I think. It was
Yeah.
a handshake deal. I know he doesn't like
Right.
stuff written down. So
Right,
I
yeah.
was just like, could you agree to this? And he said yes.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well done by ownership everywhere. But so that's the motivation behind this idea. Your favorite team and a player that that you wish they would have traded for.
Okay.
And my only barrier on this is that the timing has to match up. You can't say I wish Wilt Chamberlain was traded to last year's Thunder team. But anything as long as like the years line up, I'm fine with it. Go as crazy as you want. You don't have to worry about salary cap restrictions or anything like that. It's all fair game. So with that, your first pick is on the board,
Okay.
on the table.
I've got to rip a Band-Aid off to get this scar healed. I'm putting Klay Thompson on the 15-16 Thunder because A, it takes away Game 6 Klay, and then
That's right.
I felt like those teams always, could have used one more three-point shooter, open up the floor for both Kevin and Russ.
Right.
Russ is slashing the basket, and Kevin's just general alien abilities.
Right.
So I'm saying Thunder trade for Klay Thompson. That takes him off of the Warriors. Just similarly how, he's not Michael Parsons isn't on the Cowboys anymore because he's on the Packers. So that's who I'm going to take with my first pick. I'm going to put Klay Thompson on the 15-16 Thunder and probably have another chance. Who knows what the butterfly effect to that is in terms of does KD ever leave? What is the future of everything? I'm glad of how it worked out, but in the time, boy, I would have taken Klay Thompson on my team instead of the other team.
That was fantastic. That's that was really a multifold argument there that I was. None of mine are that deep, is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
well done.
Mine were almost, we discussed this a little bit beforehand, mine were almost super deep. And then I was looking at
Right.
Chris Middleton stats from the mid-2010s. So.
Right. All right, my first pick. It's not going to be surprising to anybody who has seen us do anything sports related on the podcast here. I'm starting with the Chicago Cubs, and specifically 1989. And the '89 Cubs are trading for Nolan Ryan.
Okay.
The Nolan Ryan pick is more a little bit emotional, just because he was one of my favorite guys of that era, one of my favorite pitchers, maybe my favorite pitcher of that era, and that a little bit because the Cubs could have used another starting pitcher on that team.
Who couldn't use Nolan Ryan?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm putting him in there with Greg Maddux, Rick Sutcliffe, Mike Bilecki, who I know you're a huge fan of.
I remember it.
Mike Bilecki.
What year did you say you were putting this team on?
1989.
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday.
yeah, exactly. I'm throwing him in there on that pitching staff and maybe get a no-hitter out of him and move on down the line.
He doesn't seem very Chicago, I will say that.
He
Not
does
that Michael
not.
Parsons, I guess, seems very Green Bay, Wisconsin for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's fair too. But yeah, no, he doesn't. His persona doesn't necessarily fit. But he was in LA at one point, so he can make it in the northern area of the Midwest. So I'll take it.
I like that.
All right, round two. Your pick is up next.
My second pick. Okay, so the 2019 Packers, I believe, made it to the conference finals. Something that they always struggled with was just sort of receivers outside of their top guy. They had Devontae Adams that year. Would have liked a more like slot route runnery type guy, and so I'm putting Cooper Kupp on the 2019 Pack.
Very nice.
I think that certainly would have helped. This was before, I believe all the years have run together since COVID, but I believe this is after the Rams or before the Rams had won the Super Bowl, so probably not breaking anything too crazy up in Los Angeles, and getting Cooper Kupp on the Pack. So that's my second pick, is getting somebody to play off of Devontae Adams anybody, because I think Alan Lazard was the Packers, and I love Alan Lazard, Big 12 guy, ginormous human.
Yes.
But wouldn't mind some more production alongside Devontae Adams that year.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
pretty much any year Devontae Adams was on the Packers roster.
Right. Absolutely. I like that. Very nice. I'll go ahead and go with my NFL pick here. Save my my NBA pick for the finale. I'm going to go with this is going to be the 1999 Colts.
Okay.
Fantastic offense. This was Peyton Manning's third year. Edgerrin James it was either his rookie or his second year, and he was exploding at that point. They went from back-to-back 3-win seasons to 13-win season. The defense did leave something to be desired, so I'm going to go get Warren Sapp and put him in the middle of that defense. And he was always a guy that I was fascinated by. I didn't always like him. It was like a year-to-year thing, whether I liked him or didn't like him. But I always thought he was a phenomenal player and incredibly unique in terms of what he was capable of on the middle of a defensive line. So I'm putting Warren Sapp on the '99 Colts and see what that does to a defense.
I think Sapp is also just sort of an elite name for a football player.
It absolutely
Sapp
is.
on the back of your
Yeah.
shirt. Is this guy sticky? What's going on
Right.
here? Sort of sounds like sack
Uh-huh.
at the same time. So I'm all in on Warren Sapp.
Yep. So that'll be my number 2 pick in my draft, and your final pick, Marshall.
I'm going back to the NBA because
Perfectly
we
fine.
know this about me. Not a big baseball
No,
guy.
not at all.
Not a big baseball guy. I'm putting LeBron James on any iteration of the Thunder at all, and no matter what year that the Thunder have existed. And has LeBron played? Has LeBron played every year that the Thunder have even existed?
Yes, I am going to say that he did.
Yeah,
Because
so-
what was he, 04?
05, I think.
05 draft?
Yeah. So I will put, anytime that, he goes to Miami, if he would have went to the Thunder instead, if he, goes back to Cleveland, if he went to the Thunder instead. If he goes- And I remember that one time that Twitter rumors were like, Bronny James is
Right,
touring
right.
Heritage Hall.
Yeah.
I just think he's, to me, the greatest basketball player that's ever lived. Why not have that in your city? Would love to
Right.
go watch it as much as possible. And then B, think of like what that would do to Oklahoma City just in general. All the eyeballs coming here. Imagine that's good for, not tourism, but people coming to town, spending money, the economy, that stuff. So I'm putting LeBron James on any roster that the Thunder have ever had.
All right, I like it. Nothing wrong with that. I'm glad that I saved my NBA pick.
I was a little worried I was going to put. I was a little worried you were going to say LeBron James on any roster.
No, you're safe because I get to talk about the actual greatest player ever, Michael Jordan and the '90s Bulls. They already have Michael Jordan, so they don't need to trade for Michael Jordan. But the thing that they never had a really good player at was a big man. So I'm putting Shaq on any '90s Bulls team.
So they're going to go from unbeatable to definitely unbeatable.
Like to literally unbeaten. Yes, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. They even win the 2 titles in between when Jordan was gone in '94, '95. Then he comes back '96 and they go on and win what would make it for 8 in a row, 6 with Jordan. And
I was going to say I wonder what Jordan's mind, because I love Shaq. There are times he might have gotten a little lazy. At times. I was going to say I wonder what Jordan's mindset would have done for Shaq, but the mindset of all basketballs, the Mamba mentality. So if he had that and it didn't necessarily translate to all that, and then Shaq was still an outstanding player. I love Shaq.
Yeah.
But my argument crumbled in on itself while I was thinking about it. So.
Right. Yeah. No, it's understandable. It would be interesting to see the dynamic of that team if you had another
Shaq
star
and Dennis
like that.
Rodman. What's going on there?
Right. That could get wild. That would definitely be
The
number
DJ
one.
sets would be
Oh,
biblical.
phenomenal all the way around. Just the bus rides are going to be pretty insane. So
Yeah, the Last Dance would have been. It was an outstanding documentary.
Right.
I couldn't imagine if Shaq was involved also.
yeah, way more entertaining if you had added Shaq to that to that landscape. So, all right. Well, with that, I believe we're done, Marshall.
We did it. Hopefully, the Cowboys, for the betterment of everybody involved, aren't done. Hopefully, there's some more entertaining football to watch around the bend.
Yeah, that would be helpful for a lot of people. I learned last year because it was my first time really covering a really bad team several weeks in a row. That even our jobs get a little bit difficult when the team's not any good. So hopefully they, for the sake of everyone involved, including us, can get things going in the right direction this week. So, all right. Well, with that, thank you again, Marshall. Thank you for watching. Drop your score predictions for OSU Tulsa down in the comments, and you can win a beer that I'll drink for you next week. And with that, thank you once again for watching the Cowboy Chronicles.